In this episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, I sit down with Gabe Barrett to chat all about Board Game Design Advice 2nd Edition, so hang on until after Kickstarter Corner and the sponsors to hear all about that. This episode is powered by Heroes and Treasure Darkness and Light campaign. The popular Heroes and Treasure family RPG expands with new maps, enemies, and treasures. Play it with kids 4 years old and up, even teens. It's a game we'd like to get to the table when we bring back Rolling with the Leafs. It'll be on Kickstarter through Tuesday the 12th of March. So if you want to bring your kids your love of role-playing games, definitely check out Heroes and Treasure Darkness and Light campaign. This episode is powered by 60 Second Chef. Quick to learn, easy to play, and super fun. Plus, it'll help us get veggies in front of our kids on the tabletop. Who said they had to be edible? Want to know more? Go listen to my interview with one of the designers now. Episode 255, Wishlist Wednesday on Saturday, 60 Second Chef. It'll be on Kickstarter through Friday, the 22nd of March. This episode is powered by Kyle Cottonbrooks and his character Casket he created. Multiple accessories all in one kit, affordable prices, and is convenient for you. Think of a corpse for your dice and minis. It's on Kickstarter through Monday, the 15th of April. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is proudly brought to you by Brayden's World, makers of the Heroes of History card game. Sam, the game's creator, was on with us a few episodes back in Heroes of History Take 2, episode 235. To talk all about his game, and after we got our copy, we are really excited to get started. It's the only game on the market where you can have Norse heroes fight American generals in a Minotaur's lair, which I can't wait to try out. The new set of Glorious Greeks and Vicious Vikings is out now. For listeners of the show, you can get a 10% rebate by emailing your receipt to sam@bradensworld.com. We'll leave all links in the show notes. And for the first 10 listeners to leave an Amazon or eBay review, he'll send you an extra 5% rebate. Visit bradensworld.com and learn more about how you can order Iron Flanks versus Dragon Boat Raiders, as well as a beginner set, Midnight Riders versus Echoes of the Plains, Heroes of History. Do you have what it takes to be a hero? Following the annihilation of Earth, human survivors struggled to rebuild their once great planet, only to be faced with a new threat. The Robotech Masters arrived to complete the mission that their Xenotredae armada began, to secure their empire by reclaiming the protoculture matrix before it is located in the Invid. In their way stands the army of the Southern Cross. Did that sound familiar to you? Me neither. Robotech Crisis Point is a 2-player head-to-head card game. Strategy tactics, area control, bluffing, and hand management all come into play in this dynamic and deep game of alien versus human in a battle of wits and courage. Will you save humanity or utterly destroy it? If you're up to the challenge, rush on over and pre-order Robotech Crisis Point today. Pre-orders will run through May unless they sell out, so don't dilly-dally. While you wait, you can check out Solar Flare's other Robotech game and or watch Robotech anime on Amazon Prime, possibly Netflix too. We'll leave all the links in the show notes, and make sure you subscribe to Getting Geeky with Game Relief, as I'm going to have the publisher Dave Killingsworth from Solar Flare Games on next episode to talk all about this, so don't miss that.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Welcome to Getting Geeky with Game Relief. I'm so glad you can make it. Hang on until after Kickstarter Corner and we'll talk to Gabe Barrett about his new second edition of his board game design advice book that's currently on Kickstarter. Let's go ahead and dive in, shall we?
What is this place? What is it doing here in the Leaves computer? Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leaves.
I'm really excited about Sheep Boom Bah. It's a 2 to 4 player tabletop game of moving sheep and playing cards while trying to discover your barn hidden in an active minefield. It sounds like a must-have, especially if you're not opposed to exploding sheep in minefields, which I'm not. So head on over and check out their campaign on Kickstarter, and let's make this game a reality. I think they need less than 100 backers in less than 12 hours. So go ahead and jump on over. This game will be on Kickstarter through 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time today, the 5th of March, so don't dilly-dally. You've heard of war, but have you ever heard of Duels of Kartasora? If you've been listening to Getting Geeky with Game Relief for a while, you have. But just in case, in Duels of Kartasora, you are one of 6 warriors from antiquity fighting a one-on-one battle against another experienced combatant. Each of your skills and special abilities are different, yet the asymmetrical matchup is completely balanced and any fighter can win. It's about you and your ability to discover how to apply the right tactics to the situation by reading your opponent's moves and knowing their special abilities. Some fighters are bold and powerful, others are more defensive and sneaky. Each of the 6 warriors have their own personality. You need to find out which one is best for you. I'm excited to play it, but first we need to get it funded on Kickstarter so Analog Game Studios can bring it to life. You've got until Sunday the 10th of March to make sure y'all go check out Duels of Kartasora today. Let's say you take on the role of a movie director hired at a major movie studio. Your job includes choosing your own genres, bidding on brilliant scripts, hiring talented actors, and using your newfound influence to make the most profitable and award-winning movies possible. But if you read the fine print, you'll notice that at the end of the contract, only the director that brings back the most Oscar awards will get to keep their job. You'll have to be smart, a little lucky, and just a bit cutthroat. In this job, you are expected to navigate studio meddling, beat your fellow directors, and take home the Oscars. Good luck. Did any of that sound familiar to you guys? If not, go check out this new Kickstarter game. It's called That's a Wrap, the game of filmmaking frenzy. It's a card drafting, dice rolling, movie making board game with over 50,000 unique film combinations. They'll be on Kickstarter through Thursday the 21st of March, so go check out That's a Wrap, the game of filmmaking frenzy today. Y'all probably know I adore my Kickstarter video, but no real people are used in it. If I had to pick one with real people in it, I'd have to say Gil Hova from Formal Ferret Games nailed it with his video for High Rise that he just relaunched. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I love the fibble meter that makes its debut in his video. By the time his video was over, I knew I had to have this game. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I backed the project and said, Gil must be on the show. So I'm working on that too. But anyways, High Rise is a game of construction and corruption. For 1 to 4 players, it's also a city building strategy board game with a bit of corruption from the designer of the networks, Wordsy, and Bad Medicine. In the game, you and your opponents are constructing skyscrapers in a somewhat reputable city. You'll move around the board on a one-way track, choosing any unoccupied space ahead of you and doing its action, and waiting for everyone to pass you until you take your next action. If you need some comedy in your life, and even if you don't miss his Kickstarter video and then back High Rise on Kickstarter before Monday the 25th of March. You've heard of Deadlands role-playing game? You've wanted to give it a try but haven't been able to? You love noir-themed stuff? Well, you're not going to want to miss this then. The Big Easy, a Deadlands Noir card game. It's a standalone crime-solving card game for 2 to 4 players set in the world of Deadlands Noir. In case you missed Thursday's show, then go back and listen to Wishlist Wednesday on Thursday, The Big Easy, a Deadlands Noir card game, then back it on Kickstarter before Thursday, the 7th of March.
Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
You know, if you're like me, you've probably often found yourself sitting at a table, staring at some dice, staring at some cards, trying to figure out how you're going to put these things together to turn them into a game that others might actually enjoy. And if you're like me, you've probably got lots of ideas bouncing around your head, but you often find it difficult to get those ideas out and onto a table. Well, back in 2016, I started the Board Game Design Lab with one mission in mind, and that was to help designers create great games that people love. Through a podcast, a website, and a community, I've been able to help thousands of game designers come together to help each other and to become the best designers they can possibly be. And that's where this book comes in. I wanted to put together a resource that would help you along in your design journey. I wanted to interview the best of the best in the board game industry and ask them specific questions that I knew would help designers in every step of the creative process. I mean, wouldn't it be great if you could sit down with Matt Leacock and Reiner Knizia and Nikki Valens and Jamie Stegmaier and Isaac Vega and just pick their brains about game design? Well, with this book, you can not only learn from them, but also 100 plus more of the best designers on the planet. I believe there's an awesome board game in you, and this book will help make it a reality. In these pages, you'll find wisdom and advice that will help you design great games that people love. So don't let that game just keep bouncing around in your brain. Get it on a table so that other people can enjoy it, and let 100 of the best designers in the world be your guide as you bring your game to life. We're living in exciting times when great games are coming out every single year, but I firmly believe that the best games are yet to be made. And I think you owe it to yourself and to the gamers around the world to get that idea out of your head, out of your notebook, and turn it into something that people can experience and fall in love with. As game designers, we don't just make games, we make experiences. We make moments that people can look back on. We bring friends and families together to create memories that they'll never forget. We're storytellers of the highest degree because we create opportunities for other people to tell stories. So let's turn that game idea of yours into reality. Let's create some amazing experiences that people will be talking about for years to come.
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It did kind of to me, as this is something dealing with the second edition, but just in case it didn't sound familiar to you, it is the story of Board Game Design Advice second edition. And today we're lucky enough to have on a return guest. We're welcomed by Gabe Barrett, the creator of this board game design book. Is that right, Gabe? That's how you fall in line with it?
Yeah, man. I am the author, I guess, but I'm just the collector. I've collected tons and tons and tons, over 100 interviews from the best designers in the industry, and just kind of edited them down, repackaged them, and put them all together to make them easy to consume in book form.
Awesome. And did you do that because you do a podcast, did you take the interviews off the podcast and make them into a book?
No, these are all brand new interviews. I didn't take any content that I already made. It's all brand new stuff, either talking to designers or doing, back and forth email kind of interview, Google form kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it's all brand new stuff.
Awesome. Now, before we get into that, let's rewind a little bit in case somebody hasn't heard our previous episode where we chatted with each other. But how did you get into playing tabletop board games and whatnot, Gabe?
Yeah, playing, man, I guess playing like a lot of people start off as a kid, just playing mass market games. Connect Four was one of my favorites. Then I got into chess a lot in college, played chess, not in college, in high school. And then in college, got into playing D&D and, started to discover Catan and some of these more modern style games. And then I kind of went on a hiatus for a while after I graduated, and I was out in the world, trying to work and figure out what life was going to be like. And then as I got more settled, I slowly came back into the hobby and then started designing games, I guess a few years after I graduated college. And so fast forward, I guess, some years from then, I started this podcast, the Board Game Design Lab, where I interview designers and publishers and people from the industry about specific topics in game design. And then out of that evolved a book and a community and all sorts of really cool stuff.
Awesome. What pulled you back in after your hiatus?
Well, I think I had a little bit more time and I had a little bit more money, working and things like that. And then also just the friend group. I had some good friends that were into games, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember, I used to play games like this and this. Like, oh man, you've got to check out the new stuff, the stuff that's come out since you last played a few years ago. And as soon as I started playing those newer games, man, I was hooked.
Do you remember the first new game, so to speak?
Ooh, I think Catacombs was one of the first ones. Pandemic was in there. Let's see, Machi Koro was one of the first ones. Mice and Mystics was another one. So, some of these games that came out, a fair number of years ago were the things that really got me back engaged.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I can't wait to get Catacombs to the table. That's one that's been sitting on our shelf for who knows how long. Speaking of Catacombs, you have a similar kind of mechanic in one of your games that just was recently successful on Kickstarter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, definitely. The Final Flick tier is a 4X dexterity game, and so it's the normal, stereotypical 4X style game where you're going around the galaxy trying to build stuff and gather resources and destroy your opponents and that kind of thing, gain victory points. But it uses dexterity, so your ships are dice, and you're flicking these dice, these ships around the board, attacking each other, with the dice and trying to get from one planet to another. And it was a lot of fun to design and develop. And it's, if you want to check it out, it's still on Kickstarter. It's in pre-order now. The Kickstarter campaign funded in January, and the game will come out in hopefully July or August.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and leave the link in the show notes so they can go ahead and click on over and check that out. And also, Machi Koro, that's one of our favorites, at least with my daughter. We really like that one.
Yeah, that's a great one. It's so easy, just to get into. It's a game that I used several years ago to bring some other friends kind of into the hobby and say, hey, check out how these games can be played, because they were thinking, oh man, it's so complex and all these different, because you see a lot of modern games and they have these huge rule books and all these components and all these cards and chits and all that kind of stuff. But Machi Koro is just super simple. It's like, we're going to roll some dice and we're going to look at a card and see what happens, and then now it's your turn. And so I feel like it's a great game just to get people engaged with the hobby.
Yeah, for sure. And what are you playing these days, Gabe?
Ooh, that's a good question. The game I've been playing the most lately is Deception Murder in Hong Kong. It's a game I've been playing a lot with students at the school where I teach. It's another great game just to get people in. It's not a lot of rules. I can be the forensic scientist, so I can kind of manage the game. I can kind of help players understand what to do, how things are played. And it's been a game that I've brought, I think I played with 7 or 8 brand new people just last week, students at the school that wanted to play some games. I was like, okay, let's check this one. This is a good one to kind of get into, and you can accuse your friends of being murderers. And like, oh, okay, cool. And so it's been a lot of fun just to show new people that game.
Awesome. Yeah, I haven't played that, but I think I've heard them talking about it on Tuesday Night Gaming Podcast, if I recall correctly.
Oh, okay. You got to check it out, man. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Now, word on the street is, as we brought up before, you authored a second edition. What's different between, what's your board game design advice all about, first off?
Yeah, so I came out with the board game design advice from the best in the world. So that's the title and subtitle. And I reached out to, for the first edition, I think 67 designers were in there, and they all answered the same question. So I had these, I think, 11 questions that I asked every single designer, and not everybody answered all of them. They would kind of pick and choose, but every designer basically answered, their perspective, their angle on different things. And it was questions as various or varied as, how do you get in the zone? Like, how do you get in kind of the design mindset, to what is something you've bought in the last year of under $50 that's helped your design, designing games, to questions about, if you've had a really rough play test, what do you do? What do you do when you feel overwhelmed? How do you know when to put a game on the shelf? What would you tell a person who's about to sit down to pitch a game to a publisher? And so I tried to hit every single angle of the game design creative process and ask a question that related, in some way, for every single part. And so last year, the book came out and it did pretty well, but I felt like I wanted to add more. I wanted to reach out to more designers. I wanted to hit at least 100. I wanted that 101 designers at least in the book. And so I started reaching out to more and put together a second edition. And I think the number's up to 107, or maybe, no, actually I got 2 more. So it's 109 right now. It'll be the total at the moment. And then there's all sorts of mini interview, content in there as well. And so it basically doubled for the second edition, basically doubled the amount of content from the first edition, and something I'm super proud of and really excited to get into people's hands.
Awesome. So somebody's read the first edition or whatnot. What new designers are on board now? Oh
man, I can go to the list. Reiner Knizia, Isaac Vega, Nikki Valens, Ignacy Shevchik, Aaron West, John Covey. Oh man, it's a lot. It's like the best of the best. I mean, I really went through the top 200 in Board Game Geek and just reached out to every single one of those, and then also reached out to the communities, the different Facebook groups, and said, hey, who do you think are the best designers? And reached out to, I think, almost every single name that people suggested. And now a lot of people didn't respond, or a lot of people said, no, thank you. A lot of people didn't speak English. I got a lot of German and European designers that weren't fluent enough in English to feel confident in this. But yeah, I'm super excited about the new list of just amazing designers being added to the second edition.
Awesome. Now, if somebody hasn't read it, how is this going to benefit somebody that maybe isn't into design? They have no thought of even ever designing a game? Would they be able to benefit, do you think?
Well, I am of the opinion that everybody has a game inside them somewhere, especially people who've been playing games for a while. I'm willing to bet you've had an idea about how to improve a game, how to come up with an expansion, how to alter a game. You've probably house ruled some things. Like I have a feeling you've got some design in you somewhere, and I think this book will help you kind of tap into it, right? If you've ever had just an idea about making a game, this book will help you put it to work, so to speak, turn it into reality, and you get advice from the best designers in the world. And it's a lot of just basic stuff. There's some deep level stuff. There's some not so deep level stuff. And so I think no matter where you are in the game design spectrum, if you're a person that's designed 100 games versus someone who's just thought about maybe doing one sometime, I think you're going to get something out of this. And at the very least, you get to look into a designer's process. So if you've got a designer that you really like, or you got certain games that you really like, you can kind of see how a designer came up with this and kind of get a behind the scenes look into, their creativity.
Awesome. And are you going to have any images of their games, or is it just straight text, or how's it look?
Yeah, so I've got an awesome, amazing graphic designer named Drew Corkle, who has just done amazing work for me on several different projects. And the way he got the whole book laid out, and so you've got the designer, their name, and then like a really cool quote that's from them, and then like a little icon that kind of goes along with their style of games, thing like that. And then there's a notable games section in each chapter where it highlights that designer's most popular games, most successful games, and then it goes into the questions and the answers and things like that. So there's a little bit more to it than just straight text.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so that sounds good. I'm pretty excited about it. So let's see here. So what would you say the hardest part about coming up with the book was for you?
That's a good question. I'd say it's the editing process, just based on the first edition, and now going into the second. The editing process, it just takes a while of compiling all the answers and going through and just making sure making sure everybody sounds super intelligent, right? Because there's sometimes that I know personally, I'll write something and then I'll go back and read it and go, oh, that didn't sound as well as I wanted it to. And so just going back in and cleaning things up and polishing and making it the best it can be. And then dealing with shipping. Like any other Kickstarter project, shipping and logistics are easily the most frustrating and let's try to think of a good word. I don't want to say terrible, but the most challenging, that's a good word for it, challenging aspect of a campaign. And so I'm not necessarily looking forward to that, but I've already done it before, so I feel confident now I can do it again without any mistakes or hiccups.
Well, there you go. Awesome. Now, are more people jumping on the paperback and the different hardback versions then with the shipping?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say that a lot more people are in with the for the hardback. The hardback's a special edition. It's a Kickstarter exclusive. It's going to be signed and numbered. It's got a really cool cover that Drew put together. This kind of black on white, or white on black, I guess, cover. It looks really cool. And so I'd say there's a lot of people getting in for the hardback. And I think, the free shipping obviously helps on that.
Oh, okay. So it's free shipping. Awesome.
Well, free as in, it's built in. The Kickstarter free of things, it's not an added cost.
There you go. That's good. Yeah, because I've heard shipping eats people on shipping Kickstarters out. They get there and then they don't know what to expect.
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing, anybody who wants to do a Kickstarter has to realize, especially as you start adding stretch goals and you start adding weight to the box, then you really run the risk of going up the next level in shipping. That's one thing people don't understand. You don't pay based on the exact weight. You pay on a range. So if a product is 1 pound or less, you pay this much. If it's 2 pounds or less, or 3 pounds or less. And so anytime you go from that 1.9 pounds up to the 2.1, then you're going into the next range of shipping costs. And a lot of people get messed up because they add, just a handful of components, is all it takes to go up just a few ounces. And you can get into that next range of shipping, and you got to be careful of that. But with the book, it's a little bit easier. Adding extra pages doesn't weigh too much, so I can add some really interesting stretch goals with different interviews and that kind of thing. And it's I'm not going to run the risk too much of getting messed up with the shipping.
There you go. So speaking of stretch goals, what are you working on currently?
Yeah, so I've got lots of different stretch goals. It's basically mini interviews. It's reaching out to designers for their top 3 tips or top 3 best ideas or best advice kind of thing for different topics. And I reached out to all the backers of the book and just kind of put out a survey and said, hey, what do you folks want to know more about? And so I got a really great list. A lot of people want to know more about design theory, and some want to know about mechanisms and publishing and getting published, things like that. And so now I'm in the process of reaching out to designers and asking them, basically a 10-minute interview kind of thing, and getting their best advice, just kind of quick. It's going to be basically 2 pages in the book, 2 or 3 pages. And then I'll also have a link to the actual full-on audio version as well. So if they want to hear it as well, and kind of get the full experience, not just the edited down book version that'll be available as well.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. And on the Kickstarter page, currently at the time of recording, you only have listed up to the 18,000, which was unlocked probably a little while ago. So there's going to be some new ones coming as well.
Yeah, as of recording this, as of today, I'm going to post a couple more stretch goals this evening. I'll put out an update about that, and then as we unlock more, I'll post more to be unlocked in the future or down the road. I've got a list of things based on feedback from the backers of different ideas, different things. And so we'll just kind of hit them as we go.
Well, there you go. Awesome. Now, somebody's listening to this after the fact, Gabe. How can they go about getting your book if it's a while down the road and there's no longer a Kickstarter or a pre-order?
Yeah, gotcha. It'll be on Amazon eventually. So after all the backers get their books, the paperback will be available on Amazon roughly 2 or 3 weeks later. So I want to make sure backers get their editions first, get their copies before anybody else, and then it'll be available to the public through Amazon.com.
That's good. Awesome. So I know there's a lot of board games out there, and there's a lot of games. Let's see. Yeah, so that's awesome. Now with when it comes to board game design advice, the second edition, what makes this board game project pop as one my audience should go check out and then back if they like what they see, Gabe?
Yeah, definitely. Well, like I was saying earlier, if you've ever had an idea for a game, or if you've ever wanted to make your own game, or if you've ever, kind of bounced ideas around in your head, but just didn't know where to start, this book will help you turn that idea into reality. I started the Board Game Design Lab, and I wrote this book for the same reason, one mission, basically, and that was to help folks design great games that people love. And I think this book will help you do that. It'll help you get your ideas out, get them onto the table, start pushing them around, and you'll be able to basically use the best of the best designers in the industry as guides to kind of help you along in the design process, and you'll be able to learn from them along the way. And so if that sounds like something you're interested in, I highly suggest you check it out.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, we'll make sure we leave all the links in the show notes so they can have easier access to that. So you brought up a couple times the Board Game Design Lab. Somebody hasn't heard of that. What is that exactly, Gabe?
Yeah, so that's a podcast I started back at the end of 2016. And originally it was just an interview series of just reaching out to designers and asking them questions about specific topics. So every podcast episode is an interview with one designer about one topic. That's something I wanted to be very specific in everything I did. And because, I listened to a lot of podcasts that I really loved, but a lot of times I would have to bounce around and try to find the information that I was actually looking for. It'd be kind of hidden amongst a whole bunch of other stuff. And so when I started my own podcast, I wanted to just make it one thing. This episode is about this one thing. And we're going to do a deep dive into that, and we'll save other topics for another day, maybe with other interviews. And so I'm up to right at 120 episodes at this point, which has just been phenomenal. How many designers have come onto the show and been gracious enough to answer my questions and give feedback and advice to the listeners. And so out of that came a website that just has tons of resources and links to blogs and all sorts of really great stuff all over the internet. So it's a really good resource, kind of like a database, kind of a hub to find what you're needing. And then it's also now a Facebook community and a Discord community. And so anyone that wants to get feedback on their ideas, feedback on their games, just work through the process, need some encouragement, need to work through play testing and all the stuff that goes along with design, the community has become a really amazing place to do that as well. So you can just search Board Game Design Lab community on Facebook, or you can check out the Discord. And the link to that's on the website, boardgamedesignlab.com.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we leave all the links in the show notes. So we don't want to keep you all day, but we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief with us today, Gabe, to talk all about the second edition of Board Game Design Advice that'll be on Kickstarter through Wednesday, the 13th of March. We really appreciate it, Gabe.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for having me on the show.
I really enjoyed chatting with Gabe all about that book. I can't wait to read his latest edition, as well as play these great games and get some of these awesome accessories that are up for pre-order or on Kickstarter. If you feel the same way, click the links on my show notes, which can be found by clicking the show notes link on your podcast catchers, which will take you to my website, GamerLeafGo.com. That way, we can show these creators, as well as the podcast you're currently listening to, some extra love. Speaking of extra love, don't forget to back our Kickstarter for Season 3 today. If you liked what you heard on Getting Geeky with Game Relief today, do us a favor and go ahead and share it with somebody to help bring them into the geek fold. Because, like we always say on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, until we catch you next time, go ahead and get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others in the geek fold. And we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Game Relief out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.